Let's start with our first news. Sean Strickland, the outspoken and often controversial former UFC middleweight champion, once again made headlines. This time not inside the octagon, but at a small gym in Nutley, New Jersey. While visiting Cruz MMA, the gym run by Alex Pereira's longtime coach, Pino Cruz, Strickland jumped into a class and agreed to spar with a group of students. True to his nature, he didn't back down when a much younger, less experienced student bravely stepped forward to face it. What began as a lighthearted sparring session quickly showed the mismatch. Strickland, towering over the student, threw measured shots with a casual demeanor, testing his reactions. Then came the moment that shifted the room. Strickland landed a sharp body kick that dropped the student, knocking the wind out of him. The gym went silent as the young fighter struggled to breathe. Strickland immediately raised his hands and reassured him, "That wasn't hard, I promise." His words carried both humor and concern, a mix that perfectly defines his unfiltered personality. The student sat on the mat holding his side, but Strickland encouraged him. "Get up, come on, you can do it." With grit and determination, the kid stood back up. Strickland, grinning, challenged him again, pushing him to throw back. The exchanges resumed, this time with the crowd cheering for the student, who began firing punches with growing confidence. Strickland eased off slightly, allowing the round to continue, coaching him through the experience with his trademark rough-edged encouragement. By the end, the student was winded but smiling, proud to have survived a round with one of the UFC's toughest fighters. For Strickland, it was just another day of raw, unfiltered gym work. For the young fighter, it was an unforgettable lesson in toughness, courage, and resilience. Before moving on to the next update, we'd like to ask for your support. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon so you never miss an update. Move on to another news. Della Maddalena has made his intentions clear ahead of the biggest fight of his career. On November 8th, at the world's most iconic combat sports venue, Madison Square Garden, the Australian welterweight contender will face the reigning pound-for-pound king, Islam Makhachev, in a matchup that has captured global attention. Speaking at a press conference in Perth, Maddalena, better known to fans as JDM, shared his vision for how the fight will unfold. Confident and ambitious, he stated, "I'm going for the finish. To get the finish in New York at Madison Square Garden against the #1 pound-for-pound fighter, that would blow the roof off. That's the dream." Known for his sharp boxing and ruthless finishing instincts, JDM sees real opportunity. He explained his game plan will be to push the pace, find openings on the feet, and look for the decisive shot. But he also acknowledged the challenge. "I expect the first round to involve a lot of wrestling. Islam will try to impose his ground game early. He's world-class at it, but I'm preparing for that. I'm ready." When asked if Makhachev might test him standing, JDM kept it realistic. "It's hard to expect anything specific. Maybe he'll test the waters on the feet, but eventually I think he'll look to mix it up with wrestling. If you look back at his fight with Beneil Dariush, you see how important it is for him to establish control early. I imagine he'll try the same with me." Still, Maddalena radiates belief. "I can see the finish happening. I can see myself finding the shot and making it count. To finish Islam Makhachev at Madison Square Garden, that would change my life forever." The fight is billed as a classic striker versus grappler showdown, with massive stakes on MMA's grandest stage. For Maddalena, it's more than an upset, it's destiny. This is what you dream about. To fight the best in the world, to fight on the biggest stage, and to prove you belong there. That's exactly what I'm going to do. With UFC 322 fast approaching, fans are left asking, can JDM shock the world, or will Makhachev's dominance continue under the bright lights of Madison Square Garden? Move on to another news. Renato Moicano has become one of the UFC's most entertaining personalities, both inside the cage and on the mic. But earlier this week, the fan-favorite lightweight was the target of a prank from none other than Alex Pereira, the reigning light heavyweight champion, and it left Moicano briefly rattled, with Gilbert Burns laughing at his expense. Moicano told the story during a podcast, explaining how it all started. He had recently filmed an episode with Glover Teixeira that pulled over 100,000 views. During their chat, Moicano asked Glover a simple question. "In your prime, if you fought Alex Pereira in his prime, who wins?" Glover, ever respectful, gave the edge to Pereira and praised his longtime protege. But when Pereira saw the clip, he decided to flip the script, with Glover and others in on the joke. Pereira called Moicano directly, pretending to be upset. "That's when things got interesting," Moicano said. "I was already stressed, flat tire walking home, and then I get a blocked call on WhatsApp. The voice says, 'This is Alex Pereira. Answer the phone.' Right away he tells me, 'I didn't like what you said on the podcast.'" Moicano admitted he was caught off guard. "I picked up and said, 'What's up, my brother? I wasn't trying to disrespect you. Some people said I sounded scared. Others said I handled it okay. But come on, who wouldn't be careful when Alex Pereira calls you like that?" Gilbert Burns, who was part of the podcast, couldn't resist teasing him. "Bro, you were scared. People always see you you loud and crazy, but with Pereira you were all polite. What's up, my brother? Moicano fired back, laughing, Gilbert, you're fake. If Alex called you, you'd be like, no, Alex, I'm your biggest fan. The exchange had everyone cracking up. Moicano even joked about deleting the video altogether. In the end, the prank became another viral moment for him, showing Pereira's rare playful side and reminding fans why Moicano's charisma continues to shine both in and out of the octagon. Move on to another news. Joe Rogan has never been one to hold back his opinions on the fight game. On a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience with MMA legend Mark Kerr, Rogan weighed in on the possibility of a rematch between UFC middleweight champion Dricus Du Plessis and undefeated contender Khamzat Chimaev. And in classic Rogan fashion, he didn't sugarcoat it. I just can't picture a scenario where Du Plessis beats him, Rogan admitted. It's nuts because going into that fight, a lot of people saw Dricus as one of the greats. He knocked out Robert Whittaker. He beat Israel Adesanya. He beat Sean Strickland twice. You look at all that and think, wow, this guy could be one of the greatest middleweights of all time. Despite that resume, Rogan pointed out how overwhelming Chimaev looked in their first fight. The bout went the distance, leading some fans to call it boring. But Rogan pushed back hard. People called it boring because it went to a decision, he said. But if you really appreciate the sport, you've got to recognize the dominance we saw. That was against a world champion, and Khamzat controlled every moment. That's not boring, that's greatness. He emphasized that Du Plessis' record still stands among the elite. But the way Chimaev suffocated his offense was eye-opening. Rogan explained, before the fight, people were saying Du Plessis might be one of the greatest middleweights ever. But after watching that fight, I don't think he's ever going to beat Chimaev. There's just not enough time in the world for him to close that gap. For Rogan, it's not a knock on Dricus' skills. It's simply the reality of facing a once-in-a-generation athlete. Khamzat isn't just winning fights. He's dismantling people we thought were untouchable. That's a whole different level. As talk of a rematch grows louder, Rogan made his stance clear. Unless something dramatic changes, the outcome won't. Move on to another news. The rivalry between Magomed Ankalaev and UFC light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira has taken another heated turn. Ankalaev, who previously challenged Pereira for the belt, has once again raised suspicions that the Brazilian superstar may have crossed the line in their first fight. For those unfamiliar, Pereira faced accusations of greasing after that title bout. In MMA, greasing refers to applying substances like lotion, Vaseline, or oils that make the skin abnormally slippery, making it difficult for wrestlers or grapplers to secure control. The practice is strictly prohibited under UFC rules, and Pereira immediately denied the allegations. But now, Ankalaev is doubling down. In a recent interview, the Russian contender reflected on the struggles leading up to the fight. To be honest with you, I went through a lot in that camp, he admitted. I was battling injuries and could barely wrestle. There were a lot of reasons I wasn't at my best that night. But injuries aside, Ankalaev insists something felt off the moment the cage door closed. I told my coach right away during the fight that I felt like he was greased. He was just too slippery. When you train every day, you know what's normal. But this was too much. I couldn't grab him the way I normally could. Still, Ankalaev stopped short of a full-blown accusation. I'm not making excuses, and I'm not saying he cheated on purpose, he clarified. But as a professional fighter, you can feel these things. Pereira, for his part, has consistently denied any wrongdoing. After the first allegations, he stated that he followed all UFC protocols and entered the cage clean. No complaints or penalties were ever filed by the UFC or the Athletic Commission. Yet Ankalaev's comments have reignited the debate. Was Pereira unfairly advantaged, or is Ankalaev simply looking for answers after a tough loss? Greasing accusations have surfaced in MMA history before, but confirmed cases remain rare. One thing is clear, Ankalaev wants another shot at Pereira. If I'm at 100% and everything is fair, I can beat him, he declared. That's what I want to prove. The MMA community remains split. Some believe Ankalaev is justified in speaking up, while others see frustration driving the narrative. Either way, the controversy adds another layer of intrigue to the already stacked light heavyweight division. Move on to another news. Tom Aspinall is preparing to make his first defense of the UFC heavyweight title, and all eyes are on his upcoming clash with Cyril Gane at UFC 321 on October 25th. The highly anticipated matchup pits Aspinall, who captured the belt in spectacular fashion, against the former interim champion Gane, one of the most technical strikers and athletic big men in the sport. For many fans, this fight is not just a title defense, but a glimpse into the future of the heavyweight division. One man offering unique insight is fellow heavyweight and training partner Martin Boudet. Boudet has spent significant time inside Team Aspinall, training alongside Tom and longtime KSW champion Phil DeFries. Speaking on the matchup, Boudet was full of praise. I really love Tom Aspinall and his entire team, his father, his coaches, everyone. They're fantastic people, and I've learned so much from them. I'll be cheering for Tom all the way. I think he's going to get a spectacular finish and defend his title. I couldn't be happier for him, and I'm proud to be part of his journey. Boudet also explained how working with Aspinall's camp has influenced his own career. Those sessions shaped my style and my mindset. They're like family now, and Tom especially, he's a good friend. While Aspinall prepares for Gain, Boudet has signed with Octagon MMA and is expected to face heavyweight champion Will Fleury. It's a chance to reclaim the belt he vacated when joining the UFC. The thought of Aspinall, De Vries, and himself all holding titles across major promotions motivates him even more. Imagine if everything goes perfectly. Tom keeps the UFC belt, Phil holds on to KSW gold, and I win back the Octagon title. Team Aspinall would be on top of the world. Loyalty has guided Boudet's career choices. He revealed he turned down opportunities with KSW and even declined UFC matchups with teammates. I don't fight friends. Fighting is about respect and growth, not facing the people who made you better. As UFC 321 approaches, Aspinall's showdown with Gain looms large. For Martin Boudet, it's about more than watching a teammate defend gold. It's about being part of a movement, redefining heavyweight MMA with loyalty, respect, and world-class skill. Move on to another news. Welterweight fighter Kefir Crosby has announced his retirement from MMA. Posting on Instagram, Crosby revealed that despite still being under UFC contract, he no longer intends to compete after suffering 3 consecutive losses. Instead, he hopes the promotion will grant his release so he can pursue opportunities in other combat sports. In his message, Crosby reflected on a lifelong dream fulfilled, competing in the UFC, something he had envisioned since childhood. He began fighting competitively at age 12 and chased the UFC stage since 2005, admitting he entered later in his career but remains proud of what he accomplished. Calling MMA a young man's game, Crosby acknowledged the toll it takes physically but insisted he isn't finished as a fighter, declaring his retirement news comes on the heels of a controversial defeat last month against Takuya Naraji, where Crosby was illegally kneed. He criticized referee Mark Goddard for failing to give him adequate recovery time before restarting the fight, which quickly ended in a knockout loss. Despite Naraji being penalized 2 points, the UFC has yet to issue a response. Meanwhile, 2 new matchups have been confirmed. At UFC Vegas 110 in early November, Talida Alencar will square off against Ariane Carnelossi. Alencar is riding momentum from her April victory over Vanessa Demopoulos, while Carnelossi makes her return after more than a year away, recovering from injuries suffered in her DQ win against Pira Rodriguez last summer. The following week at UFC Vegas 111, Tessa Pennington meets Denise Gomes. Pennington is on a 2-fight win streak, including a May victory over Luana Pinheiro, while Gomes enters the bout in strong form with 3 straight wins, most recently finishing Elise Reed.